Consul General, and this is Marciano de Borja, Senator Frank Uggan, Senator Jimmy Espaldon, and Mrs. Espaldon, my good friend Nita Baldovino, Father de los Reyes, and our incoming President, Dr. Domingo, our outgoing President, Dr. Young, and you know, all of you are distinguished, very distinguished guests here. And of course, my husband, Robert, thank you very much for your patience and staying with me and driving me around. You'll try my multilingual expertise here. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Maayong gabi sa inyong tanan. Buenas noches, todos hamjo. And of course, good evening, everyone. That is the extent of my multilingual expertise. Congratulations, University of Santo Tomas. You know, I want to tell you about my first experience with UST. When I was growing up here in Guam, our main entertainment, when I was growing up, I was probably in the 5th or 6th grade, and we only had the Guam Recreation Center. And that Guam Recreation Center was a building right there across from Adelup. It looked like a warehouse, but to us, that was a cultural center. But it was also the place where we used to have the University of Santo Tomas and UE, University of the East. They would come and play basketball, and boy, was that ever so wonderful. We used to have crushes of the basketball players, and we would just be in awe, you know, because they were all coming from the Philippines, and that was just, they were all very handsome, very tall, and we would all be cheering. So that was my main introduction to UST and UE. And I think we also had, there was another university that also came out. But nonetheless, at that time, our parents really tried very hard to maintain our language and our cultural roots as best. So I can still speak Ilonggo, believe it or not. But don't have me make a speech in Ilonggo because it's a completely different set of skills. So over the past 30 years, more than 30 years, the UST Alumni has really done quite a bit. And I want to honor them by listing some of the things that you have accomplished. You provided services and monetary contributions in St. Dominic's Senior Care Facility. You have also collaborated with the American Red Cross and Filipino community of Guam whenever there was a disaster that had happened in the Philippines. You have fed the homeless and the poor through, I think, Kamalin. There were scholarships given to students. You have raised funds for students at the University of Guam. You have also participated in health-related workshops, including the annual conference for the Guam Diabetes Association. Of course, you made donation to your alma mater for the library and donation and Christmas gifts to children at the Guam Memorial Hospital. You're the only UST, I think, Alumni Association that's outside of the Philippines. Is that still true? Yes? No? Okay, no, it's not true. All right, so there are more. But I want to thank you for your work. I want to thank you also, each one of you here, for making it possible for me to be in my new role. I thank you very much for that. Now, when I looked at the theme and I had asked, what am I supposed to speak on? I was told to speak on compassion, on mercy, and on stewardship. And I thought, you know what? That will take, one of those would take a whole Sunday, a whole Bible study. Just compassion alone, that is quite a task. But I'm going to try to just refresh our memory about what compassion really is. just by going over very briefly, not compassion, but let's start with mercy. I looked up in mercy that in scripture and Christian faith, mercy really means the giving of grace to people who do not deserve it. Mercy means that the giving of grace to people who do not deserve it. And we have been given mercy. The Lord has given us mercy. We don't really deserve it. But He has given us mercy. He has given us that grace. He has given us that forgiveness, even though we don't deserve it. That's the clearest definition of mercy. It's God's blessings, God's forgiveness to people who do not deserve it. Abraham Lincoln talked about mercy when he made a speech in Washington, D.C. in 1865. This was just when he was preparing the United States for life after the Civil War. During the Civil War, there were 700,000 people who lost their lives. And if you can just imagine 700,000 people losing their lives in a civil war, how much hurt, how much pain individuals must have gone through to have seen that. And here was the president, and he said, I have always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice. There were individuals in that war that really needed to be punished. But his aim was to bring the North and the South together. And he talked about mercy. Each one of us, ladies and gentlemen, have gotten offended, have gotten hurt in one way or another. I know that I have. But mercy, each one of us would have given mercy to those when it's as simple as this. You've heard somebody talk about you, and you know what? The next time you see them, you say hi anyways. And you still say hello to them, get them water. That's mercy. They may have raked you over the coals, they may have taken you down, they may have, talked about you so that you no longer have integrity. But when you see that person, you still are nice to that person. That's not being two-faced. That's just really being merciful. Because each one of us, in one time or another, have also done something wrong, and we have accepted mercy. We have received mercy. Now let's talk about compassion. Compassion is really about, I read this, it's defined as a powerful, it's a deep awareness of someone else's suffering, making it so that you want to lift up that suffering. That's compassion. You can have empathy. I can say like, wow, when one of my colleagues, Senator Uggan, was going through introduction of his bill and we were voting, he wasn't getting the votes. I can have empathy, what it feels when your bill is about to go up and it's like no one's voting. You're counting, okay, no, yes, no, and you're saying, okay, I can have compassion, but I can have empathy. I can feel his nervousness, but I'm not moved to undo that burden, right? To lift that burden, I'm not moved. I just say, okay, I can feel your feeling. So compassion is really that you're feeling how that other person is suffering, but you're moved to lift that burden for that person. So that's compassion. It's really about, sometimes we mix it with sympathy, sometimes we say it's pity, but it's more than that. We are determined to do something about it when you have compassion. Stewardship, we're almost there, is the toughest. Because a lot of times we think stewardship is just about managing resources. But there are 4 principles to remember about stewardship. First of all, the principle of ownership. When you're a steward, you don't own. When you're a steward of resources, you don't own the resources. Keep that in mind. So C.S. Lewis in Mere Christianity said, every faculty that you have, your power of thinking or moving your limbs from moment to moment is given you by God. If you devoted every moment of your life exclusively to His service, you could not give Him anything that was not, in a sense, His own already. So, the principle of ownership, when you're a steward, is that you don't own it. Even our talents, we don't own it. The finances that we have, it may be within our bank account, but we don't really own it. We are managing it for a greater purpose. The second principle is the principle of responsibility. When you're given something to manage, you have to have a sense of responsibility. You have to be careful. And so although God gives us all things richly to enjoy, nothing is ours. Nothing really belongs to us. God owns everything. Wow. Isn't that something? Our car, everything. We are responsible for how we treat it and what we do with it. When we complain about our rights here on earth, the Bible constantly asks, what about your responsibilities here on earth? Owners have rights. Stewards have responsibilities. The third principle is accountability. When you're a steward and who manages a possession of another person, of somebody else, guess what? You have to be accountable for that, right? You have to be accountable for everything that is given to you to manage. So we are all stewards of resources, abilities, and opportunities that God has entrusted to our care. And one day, each one of us will be called to give an account for how we manage what the Master has given us. One day, we're going to have to make an account for the talents, how we used our talents, how we used the finances that He blessed us with, how we used the relationships that He gave to us, how we used all of these blessings. So like servants in the parable of the talent, we will be called to give an account of how we administered everything that has been given, including our time, our money, our abilities, the information, the wisdom, the relationships, and the authority that is given to us. And the fourth principle is reward. In Matthew 25, verse 21, God said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So, it took me a long time to understand all of this. We can hear about compassion. We can hear about being merciful, and we can hear about being good stewards. But while we are here, there are times say, okay, in the morning, I'm really good, right? In the morning when we're all fresh, we pray. We say, okay, Lord, take over. I want to be everything you want me to do, and everything right. But what I've learned lately is that I am a work in progress. Because as soon as I say, help me to forgive, help me to forgive, and guess what? I will encounter somebody that I have to forgive. And it really, I know that's happened to you before. I know it's not only me. I just have to say, Lord, help me to forgive. There is one thing that I've learned. The only way that we can go through these, we can talk about mercy, being merciful, we can talk about being good stewards, and we can talk about being compassionate. But underlying what binds all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is love. We cannot give to somebody what we do not possess. If we have not accepted mercy and really, really have internalized mercy, we will not be able to give mercy to somebody else, because we can only give that which we already possess. So, you know, I get tested every morning. Mercy, compassion, and my stewardship. Every morning when I go to work, there's a man that stands right there. Sometimes I go down a different route and he's there because I'm trying to avoid it. They're trying to pay less. He's an older man. He has a sign that says, please give me. I don't have, he's very skinny. He's there. If I come home for lunch, he's still there with that. Sometimes I see a woman in a wheelchair, and there's a man behind her with an umbrella. And what do? You just pass or look away, right? So we want to demonstrate mercy. We want to demonstrate compassion and be good stewards. What do we do when we encounter that? So I'll be honest with you, what comes from my mind, because I did give, I'll say, what is everybody else doing? Why am I the only one to give? You give, and you say, okay, why are they always out here? But at the heart of all this, we can't give that mercy to those individuals, and we can't give them compassion if we don't possess it, if we didn't accept it ourselves. So it's very trying. So as an organization, I know that you have raised quite a bit of money, and you can give scholarships, and you can even do medical mission. And I'm glad, thank you very much, that you're willing to do it here on Guam, because we do have a lot of people who need it here on Guam. I've been to places that you wouldn't believe existed here on Guam. We have children that go to school and they really are living under a tarp. And they don't have running water. And the only food that they get is really the ones from school. So as you are thinking about your projects, I would challenge you to really think about your core values. When you talk about mercy and compassion and stewardship, you know what? I'll tell you this. Scholarships are low-hanging fruits. Giving a scholarship, giving a check to St. Dominic is a low-hanging fruit. The high fruit that we have to reach for are those individuals who are out there who are homeless. How many of us are willing to spend a couple of hours with a homeless to give them some kind of interaction? We can give them food, but do you know what everyone needs? Everyone needs some kind of intimacy. Everyone needs to be recognized as somebody that you would even be willing to say, hi, how are you? Tell me about where you came from. What can I do for you? I don't have much, but today I'm going to give you this. I'm not going to worry whether you're going to go and get that booze, but here's $20. And I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. Low-hanging fruits versus, because it's easy. It's easy to raise funds. It's easy to raise funds as a group and just write that check. It's easy to feed the homeless at San Jose, I believe that's where it is in Agana, when you are as a group. But how about as a family? As a family, that we see someone, a lot of our homeless have mental issues. And so, you know, there's that element of fear. But really, they are still people. They can be our brother, they can be our grandchild in the future, our great-grandchild in the future. And so we need to be a little bit more compassionate with that. So I'm going to leave you with a definition of what binds these three virtues together, as it was written in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 to 8. And that is the definition of love. So love, as defined, is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. And it is not proud. It is not rude, and it is not self-seeking, and it does not destroy another person. How we speak about another person, how we speak about our hurts that involves another person can destroy another person. It is not easily angered, and it does not keep records of wrongs. Love does not delight in what is evil, but it rejoices with the truth. And it always protects, it always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. It never fails. And so I leave you with that to think about. If you want to meditate on it again, it's in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 to 8. And the reason why I encourage you to meditate on that and to remember that is that that is the definition of what God is. God is love. And until, ladies and gentlemen, we have that within us, all the works of our hands, all the talents that we have, the PhDs, the MDs, the RNs, and all that, are all meaningless and empty. All the positions that we hold in government or within our family, whatever, all the wealth that we have is meaningless unless we have this. So I thank all of you for giving me this time to share what I am still really learning every day, and that is what love is about. I thank you, I congratulate all of you, and I ask you to please, everyone who's a Christian, keep all of us in the legislature in prayer. Thank you very much.